me bring in Mohamed El-Erian. So, Mohamed, we had that bounce back, not last week, but the week before. And then we had last week's move down, which was down about 2.5%. And your view is that we're going to continue to have this grind lower because the market can't anticipate a lot of the fundamentals and unknowns that are still going to happen with the coronavirus and with the pandemic. So I'm wondering whether you still feel that way or whether you'd look at last week as constructive, that because everybody was watching the task force, we knew this was going to be the worst week ever. So the market managed to go down 2.5%, and it's getting back some 4% today. Are you still of the opinion that we can continue to grind lower to the old lows and then set some new lows, or are you feeling better this morning?
So I am feeling better, qualified better. Let me explain why I'm feeling better, because I think it's really important. We're having a bounce on medical issues, not on policy issues, not on technical issues, on medical. And that's important for two reasons, Joe. First, it's about people, fewer people dying, fewer people getting infected. And secondly, I've always said it's a medical solution that forms a bottom to this market. The second reason that it's positive is you see the ability of this market to get ahead of what the economists are saying, just as you discussed with. Now, Steve, the big issue I have is this is a bright spot in an otherwise still gloomy picture. And I also listened to Scott this morning. And I think that we need more than just one spot. So I still think that the overall paradigm is going to be like last week, volatile around a downward trend. It is not the sharp eye that we had earlier. It's not the sharp eye, but it's still a downward trend, but volatile. Last week we had 3 days down, 2 days up. That's the sort of thing we're going to have, which is 1 day up, 1 day down, 1 day up, 1 day down. Okay,
there's a lot to unpack there, Mohamed, and we go back and forth personally on things, and I we have our disagreements. I'd say you're like all these bond guys that are always too pessimistic for too long, Gunlack or whomever, Bill Gross, any of these bond guys. They just, I don't know, it's a dismal science. So the next question that I have for you is what I asked Mark Grant. We're about, from the previous lows, which were down 37%, we'd need to sell off 10, 12%. And if it really gets bad and we get one of those 50% breaks that we saw in the really horrific bear markets that we've seen in the past, that would be still time to sell right now. If we're going back to the lows of 37% and then another 13% lower to down 50%, I think you should be, if you really feel that way, I think you should be telling people to sell. I don't think you should continue to say we're going to grind lower but don't sell. I don't think you can have it both ways.
So, Joe,
either you need to sell or you need to start buying back in at this point.
So, Joe, what you haven't embraced is what I've said for the last 2 weeks, up in quality. Up in quality has a sell side and a buy side to it. Why up in quality? Because there's still potential for downside. So you don't want to be in the vulnerable names. And what are vulnerable names? The ones that are subject to massive balance sheet stress. You want to sell those, but you want to go up in quality because there are.
Now you're splitting it. Now you're not really saying what you're not really saying what you want to do. You're just saying, okay, if that was like the time when there was a time when you were negative on U.S. bonds, but you said, well, I participated with the bond market move in Europe and everywhere else.
Joe, this is what investment is about.
I know, but that wasn't
what
the
you're
question.
Trying to do. No, listen, Joe, this is really important because people should hear this. You want an easy go buy or sell? No. What every investor will tell you is that you revisit your portfolio on a daily basis and you make sure that it can withstand the uncertainty out there. That's all. That's what you do because no one knows for sure. So you want to retain a claim on the upside, but you want to protect against the downside.
Right. Where I have a problem with thinking that maybe this gets a lot worse is that, and it very well might, but I have the same fears of the pandemic and of whether the economy can reopen of everyone. But I just don't know if I feel like the real big players in the market are just totally checked out in terms of knowing that's going to happen. So when you say this could get worse, or it can go to rolling into other cities, and it can get worse there, and then I think that's kind of out there already.
No, I think what's out there is understanding that this could be severe and this could be durable. Okay, that's out there. And you've seen how much the economists' projections have changed. It wasn't so long ago that we are talking about a V coming down in the first quarter and going up in the second quarter. Now we have 27. So that has changed. We've understood now that this is a severe shock. What we haven't yet internalized, and we will, is that the restart isn't like flicking on a switch. And two, it's going to be a different landscape. That's where the uncertainty is how do we restart this economy, and what does it look like when we restart it?
But Mohamed, you also said, I'm a little more positive because it's a medical issue that improved. Well, you could have anticipated that maybe some of the social distancing was going to flatten the curve. You could have anticipated maybe in Europe, Italy was going to start looking a little better. You probably could also anticipate we're going to have positive vaccine news. People are rushing to try to develop therapeutics. Gilead's ramping up production of remdesivir, the hydroxychloroquine. I don't know what finally happens with all it, but you could almost assume that what I was saying is the necessity is the mother of invention, and so it shouldn't be a huge shock to you that something medical comes along and is positive, instead of assuming that all the next data points are going to be negative, which drive us even further lower.
Joe, we should welcome that it's happening this early. We should welcome it, that it reinforces that we collectively contribute to this through social distancing. That is the main message to this. I would like to see it established day after day after day. And hopefully this is not just going to be one day. That's all I'm saying. But I listen to Scott like you listen to Scott and others. Those are the professionals. We're not the medical professionals, Joes.
No, I know that. And Scott has his own opinion, and we get comments on whether Scott at times he's a realist. All right. And I listen to everything he says, and I try to listen to everything that I'm seeing everywhere. But in the end, I guess we're all hoping for a good outcome sooner rather than later.